things will look the same. How about that? Okay, so we're dealing with percents and fractions. Now, one of those, obviously, fractions, we've done. Right? So that part should be fairly easy. Okay, because we know the 49 that we should know by heart, yes. Okay, in all honesty, don't lose track of those. If you need to go back and look at your flashcards to keep those fresh in your mind, I got to be honest with you, that would be the smartest thing that you could do. Okay, because it will make your life so much easier. Okay, especially in chapter 4, but beyond as well. Okay, so with that being said, we remember something that looks like this. Remember this? Remember that? Right. Emma just said it the best. Remember, that's our base 10 block. Okay, remember that? That's like literally, that was like kindergarten, first grade, right? When you learned how to count. Okay, so, well, you have to understand these models. Okay, and we talked about here we go. We talked about how the column represented how much? Okay, that would be 10, right? Another one would be 20. Another one would be, okay, so that is correct. So if we're talking percents, remember, this whole base 10 block is not 100, right? It's 1, and if the whole thing would be 100%, right? So right now we're talking 30%, right? Okay. 30% looks like what as a fraction? Be careful here. Tyler? All right, very good, sir. 3/10. That is correct. Now, you could have said 30/100, which would have been fine. But we know that we're always putting in the lowest terms, right? Huh? Okay, so we could have divided by 10 there to get our 3/10. So far, so good. Okay. What if we do, let's change this here a little bit. What if we do this? Can you see? I know it's kind of hard there. What do we got now, Brady? Okay, very good, sir. That would be 34%, right? It's not always going to be one column completely filled in. Okay. Remembering that one of those blocks has a value of how much? No, not 1. Okay. 100th, right? We can think of that as a penny, right? Because 100 pennies equals $1. Right? So the fraction there would be 1/100. Right. See how we can change and make a model any percent or fraction that we want. So far, so good. Okay, and sometimes they're horizontal, sometimes they're, Okay, now sometimes they don't color in the entire block. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears here and do this. Highlighter. And what if we would just do this? Okay, now forget about the green. Think of the green as being all white. Okay, sorry, I didn't. Okay, but now we're just looking at the yellow blocks. Okay, the green columns are white. Okay, imagine that they're not there. So what percentage here would we have in the yellow? Maddie? Okay, that would be 16%, which as a fraction looks like what? 16 over 100, but you can simplify that, okay, on 4/25. Very good, sir. Okay, so it sounds like we're doing well with the model here. That's good. 16% is the same thing as 4/25. Those are the two answers that you're going to have, not 16 over 100, because we already know fractions have to be put in lowest terms, right? That's a no-brainer. Okay, pretty good with the model. Okay, now, how about this? Does it always have to be a base 10 block? No, it doesn't. Okay. We could have a circle. And we can break these up into however many pieces and parts that we want, right? Okay. So we have that. Question number 1. We'll start with the fraction because that might be easier. What's the fraction of the shaded parts to unshaded parts? Michael? Okay, very good, sir. 2/8, which is equal to 1/4, which that's a flashcard, which equates to what percentage? Okay, very good. Okay, so you can see how we can equate our flashcards, hint, hint. Okay, because those are really going to come in handy. Okay, to a percentage. So far, so good? Everybody good, right? It doesn't have to be a base 10. It can be anything, right? Remembering that the bottom number is how many parts make up a whole object, right? And in this case, the numerator generally is what is shaded in. Okay, now you got to read the question just to make sure, but generally it's what's shaded in. All right. Good on the models? Sounds like it. All right, if we were going to change from a percent to a fraction, if we have 15%, now let's talk about this. Just so mathematically you know what's actually going on here. Does anybody know what the percent sign means mathematically? It has a numerical value to it. It's probably something that you may not have known. Well, it means percent, okay? And cent, okay, means 100. That is correct. I believe that's Latin. Okay. And we could, and some of you even like per out of 100. Either one of those is correct. Now that's not the mathematical value, however. That's what it means. Anybody know? Want to take a stab at it? No. What? Listen to the question. What What numerical value? That means it's a number. It's a decimal number. Ready? The percent sign actually is 100th. Or you can think of it as you're dividing 1 out of 100. Now, why is that important? I'll tell you why. So if we're changing a percent to a fraction, okay, you can think of this as two different ways, and in different situations, what I'm about to show you will work. Okay, I mean, they'll always work, but sometimes depending on the situation, as we go through today, you'll see one is better than the other. Okay, so we can say that this is 15 out of 100. Sure, we can. Okay, that's one easy way to do it. And of course, then we know that that's not acceptable. Okay, on. All right, that would be 3/20. Okay, we divide by 5, and we get 3/20. So 15% is the same thing or equal to 3/20. Because again, we're doing percents and fractions. Okay, so far so good. All right, now the other way that you could do this, okay, using this information right here, where is the decimal point on 15? Only one person, no? Puggy. Back there, right? If you multiply something by 100th, or I should say divide, that moves the decimal 2 places to the left. You might want to know this information. Okay, so if we say that out loud, what does that say? What does that mean? 1,500. So we're back at our starting point of where we began. Okay, now this is going to come in handy later, just to let you know. Okay, which again then is the same thing. You divide, you get the same thing. Okay, so far so good. All right, moving right along. What if we have 36%? Okay, now the easiest thing to do at the moment, in my opinion, is put it out of 100. And knowing your facts and what to divide by to get the lowest terms. What do you want to divide by? Go ahead, just yell it out. 4. Very good. So 36% is equal to 9/25. Once again, I'll keep reminding you all right, because obviously we'll have a quiz. The most common missed points. What do you think it is? You forget to do that right there in the pink dotted lines. That is correct. All right, and then moving right along, we arrive at something that looks like that, 83%. What does that look like as a fraction? Tyler? Can you do anything with that? Okay, and no, that's it. There's some times where, you have a prime number and there's nothing else you can do. That is the fraction, 83 over 100. Okay. What about this? All right, so now we have something that is larger than 100%. So what type of a fraction are you going to have, Emma? Okay, you got to have a mixed number here, right? So the easiest thing to do is obviously 1, because that represents 100%, right? What does 68 in this? What do we do with that? Michael? Very good, sir. That's 68 over 100. That is correct, right? We turn that into a fraction. And now, once again, we look at our mixed number and say, can we divide? Well, they're both even numbers, so we can at least divide by 2, but the larger number here, the greatest common factor, would be better if you can think of it. What are we going to divide here? What's the largest number that goes in, Kehan? 4. Now, watch this. You're so concerned or concentrating on the fraction. What do you, I see this year in and year out. What do you forget to add? Go ahead, say it. Yeah, you forget to add the 1 back in. Listen, I'm telling you, it's going to happen, and I feel bad, but you get so concentrated on reducing the fraction to lowest terms that you forget that this is a mixed number, that it's bigger than 100%. Okay, don't forget that. All right, so if we divide by 4 here, we get 17/25. So 168% is the same thing as 1 and 17/25. All right, we good with percents to fractions, right? I mean, it's not difficult, but you got to kind of pay attention. Yeah. All right. Well, that being said, now this should be a little bit easier. Fractions to percents. Because we already know about fractions. Okay, and we've already talked about this, to be honest with you. Okay, so if we have the fraction, let's start off easy here. If we have the fraction 31/50, again, what's the goal in order to find, I think we expressed it, what's the goal to find the decimal? What do you want to do to the denominator here? You want to do what? Okay, very good. Yeah, you always want to try to get the denominator to 100, right? Because if it's 100, right, we already said before that the numerator is the decimal equivalent. Remember that? Okay, well, if your denominator is 100, it's also your percent. Right? That should all be review up until here. Now we're just putting the percent sign on. So if you can, try to get the numerator, the denominator to 100. Try. What's that? Huh?
What happens when you can't get to 100?
We're going to do one. We're going to do one. Yeah. We're going to do one. No, we're going to do one. Absolutely. That's, well, you know what to do. You just have to see it done here. Okay, so what if we have, again, 7/25? Right? What are we going to do to 25 here, Brady? Multiply it by 4, right? So we get 28 over 100. And once we get the denominator to 100, our numerator is our percent. Okay, you're good with that, right? That's the easier way, actually. Okay, what's going to make it interesting is if we have a fraction like that. What do we do? Oh, fun. Yeah, it is fun. Okay, so obviously if we take 2 and multiply it, we get 80. We can't do that. If we take 3, we get 120. Oops. What do we have to do now? You know what to do. Ready? No. It's good. I mean, that's good, but the yes, you did. We just got to divide. You got to divide. Now, this is where it gets interesting, so you might want to pay attention, because we're not going to miraculously come out with a percentage. What are we going to come out with here? What kind of a number? A decimal number, right? So here we go. So let's do the math. We get 0. We get 2. That's 80. We get 10. Bring down. We get 2. That's 80. 2. Bring down. That's 5. We get 200. Okay. So we solved it. So our not what's going on? So 9/40 is equal to 225 thousandths. That's not a percentage. Remember, we're going from a fraction to a percent. How do we change a decimal into a percent? Nobody knows. I love this. Grayson, what do we do? No. Back up. In mathematics, we don't just move something. We have to mathematically do something to get things to move. Go ahead, Grace. Very good, sir. Anytime that you have a decimal and you want to change it into a percent, you multiply it by 100 to get the percent. Children, right here in the black is really important. All right. If you want to change a decimal into a percent, you multiply it by 100. What's that going to do to the decimal? Grayson, move it. Move it to the right. How many places? Well, I heard 2 and 3. Okay. It's going to move it 2 places to the right. So 22 5/10%. So if you have a fraction that you cannot multiply the denominator evenly to get 100, there's 3 steps you got to do. 1, you got to divide. 2, you get a decimal. 3, you got to multiply the decimal by 100 and move it 2 places to the right. Okay, so those are the harder types of questions. Great. Well, yes, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But there's nothing wrong with that at all. The only thing that I will tell you is what I just circled here in the dotted black line. They've asked that question before. What do you do mathematically? Multiplying by 2.5 wasn't one of them. I'm just throwing that out there for you. That will work. Don't get me wrong. Okay, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But I guess from my perspective, I want you to understand why that is happening and what you do. Does that make sense? Okay, everybody good with that? Do you need to see another example or are you good? Okay, because those are the harder ones, and obviously that's going to be on there. Okay, last thing. Love this. Might want to write this down because I have found out that you will not see this in any books. I'm about to give you I don't know, I hate to say a little trick, but okay. It's simply called the 10% rule. It is very creative. Now, the wonderful part about the 10% rule is you've all gone out to eat with mom and dad, right? Grandma, aunt, uncle, dog, cat, ferret, whoever you go out to eat with. Okay. And all of a sudden you go to the restaurant or whatever, and I'm going to make this easy for us here. The bill comes back and somebody older than you has to pay for it. Okay, so we're going to make this easy. You went out to eat and it cost $40. Okay, might want to pay attention. So then, is that what mom and dad pay? No, you have to. Well, you don't have to. Okay, well, forget about the tax. There's no tax on food, Sparky. You can try that. Okay, you got to leave a tip. Now, I would hope that somebody doesn't break out a calculator when calculating the tip, do they? No, because listen, this is a life skill. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing if you break out a calculator and you can't do basic mathematical 6th grade, 7th grade math. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, now some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I would say the majority of humans do not do this because it's easy. Okay, watch how this works. Okay, let's first talk about what is a percentage that is acceptable when it comes to tipping. Anybody know? Tyler? 10%? 20%? 30? 50?
100.
All right, children, come on. The acceptable amount somewhere along, people leave 15 to 20% of the total amount. Okay. Now, that being said, the 10% rule, to find 10% of a number, watch how easy this is. You move the decimal one place to the left. So, $4 is 10%. So you don't need a calculator. You physically look at the bill and you move it one place to the left. That's 10%. Now, we talked about 15. We'll get into 15% in a minute, but let's just talk about 20%. What am I going to have to do again? No, I'm not moving it again. I've already found 10%. If I want to leave a 20% tip, okay, you can multiply it by 2. That's fine. Or you can just tack on another. It's the same thing. So what I'm leaving is $48. Okay. So your bill comes and it's $40, but yet you're actually going to be leaving $48, as 8 of that is a tip for the person that took care of you while you were there. Does that make sense? Okay. You're okay with the 10%? I mean, that's pretty easy, right? Okay. So let's talk about a little bit of a harder bill. Okay. So when it comes to that, let's be honest, bills aren't always $40, right? Okay. So let's say we come out with $37.19. Okay, a little bit harder, but somebody just said that a little bit earlier. Okay, this whole year we're working on estimation as well, right? Okay, so the total bill is this. Again, 10%. We move the decimal one place to the left. Okay, so now it comes out to look something like that. Right? 3.719. Okay, your parents aren't going to leave that as a tip. What will they generally look at and say, how much are we going to leave? Correct, right? Correct. They're generally going to look at that and say, okay, that's close to $4. Okay. So again, that's 10%. So again, we have a bill. We're going to round that to 37. Okay, we're going to tack on another $4 because we're going to make that 20%, right? So now we got to add 8. That's an 8, by the way. So we are going to leave $45 here in this case. Does that make sense? So far, so good. Okay, the harder ones, might want to pay attention for those of you on your Chromebook. The harder ones are when they want to leave 15%. Okay, listen carefully. You always, are you listening? You always start with 10%. You hear me? You always start with 10%. Okay, so now our bill, $62.71. Okay. Again, what's 10%? We move it over, right? So that comes out to be 6.271. Generally $6. I would agree with you, right? We estimate. Okay, now that's 10%. We've got to find 5%. Well, listen, if you know that 10% is 6, and you want to find half of 10%, you divide it by 2. What's half of 6? 3. That's our 5%. So now you add them up, and 15% is roughly around $9. So 62.71, right? So our bill is, we're going to add $9 to that. 71.71. Okay, those are the harder ones. 25%, same thing, right? You find 10%, you multiply it by 2, you take half of 10%. So far, so good. Everybody good with that? Yeah. Okay, now listen carefully. Especially if we're, we didn't do one, but 25%. You don't take half of 25%, right? Right? This is where you always start with 10%. You take 10% to get 5%. You always take half of that, right? Okay. And I believe that is all she wrote in 4-1. Okay. Everybody good? Any questions? Percents to fractions, fractions to percents. We're all good? Okay. All right. So our homework that we can get started on, we're going to do 1 to 41, the odds.